How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another One Piece card game video. My name is That Manga Nerd, and today we're going to continue our coverage over the second set, Paramount War, which is set to come out on March 10th. We'll be going over all of the purple cards that are set to release. That is 2 new leaders, one being a dual color, 3 new events, a new stage, and then a handful of character cards, a couple of vanillas, and then a lot with effects. The purple set is more based around the villains of the set. Villains being the Marines, but Magellan and Hannibal, or that's his name, whatever. But Sadie and the Jailer Beast, all that stuff. So that's enough for the intro. Let's go ahead and hop over here to the Japanese side of the website where they have all of the cards listed. And let's go ahead and hop right over here into our first card, which is the mono purple leader from the set. He is 5 life, 5,000 power, special attribute, Impel Down type. His effect is during your turn, once per turn. When a Dawn card in your field is returned to your Dawn deck, this leader gains plus 1,000 power during this turn. So this is a really strong effect, I feel, for purple in general, just because most purple cards have at least a Dawn -1 effect. The first one that comes to mind is Starter Deck Killer, where on play he KOs a 4 or less, and it's just Dawn -1. So using him in this deck would get you, the Dawn -1, it'd fulfill this requirement, and then your guy would be 6. So it's kind of like when you lose one of your Dawn during the turn, it just kind of gets attached to your leader for that turn. You do still lose Dawn. That is, the main part. It is limited to a once per turn. So if there's like a Dawn -2, 7 cost king from the first set where you can KO a 4 and a 3, or a 3 and a 2, I think, it is only plus 1,000 one time. He does have a parallel, just the face card. Then the next leader we have is Zephyr, or Zeph, whatever, Z. He is 4 life, 5,000, dual color, purple and black, striker attribute. He is a film and neo-navy type. His effect is when attacking, Dawn -4, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less, then this character gains plus 1,000 during this turn. So, in just like thinking of him as just a purple leader, this is a okay effect. You are getting plus 1,000. You are KOing a blocker on the field, but you're losing 4, which is kind of heavy. But if you think of him as also being a black leader, the black cards is the new color set for this. We talked about this. We talked about it in the first video that we did covering the red cards, where with GARP, where black has the ability to reduce the cost of your opponent's characters on his field. So if you have there are certain cards on there, which we'll get into in the next video, where when they attack, they reduce the cost. On play, they reduce the cost. And then there is just cards that you have on the field, and they reduce the cost of your opponent's side. So having a leader where you can KO a 3 or less it's kind of high in that regard, because you might not be able to you could get a 10 down to a 3. You might not be able to get a 10 down to a 0, but if you can get a 10 down to a 3, 10 cost being the Shanks from the first set, the Whitebeard from this set, and then I think the secret rare black card, which we'll get to in the next set, that one in this set, you can get it down. If you can get it from a 10 down to a 3, then you can use his effect. You KO that 10 cost character, and then he gets plus 1,000. So he swings with 6. Thinking of it like that, pretty good leader. I can see a purple and black. I only see it getting way better. Just the more variety that it gains, it's just, this leader is going to be really good. This is the parallel card. If there was one parallel card that I'd want from the set, it'd be this one. We have Sadie. She's a 3/3 wisdom type, 2k counter in hand, Impel Down, Her effect is on play, play up to one Jailer Beast type character card from your hand. So Jailer Beast is the new type introduced in this set. There's 2, I believe, that we'll get to later that are 4/5s, I think. So her effect being where you pay 3, you'll have a 3/3 on the board, and then from the 3 you get a 4/5 out on the board. That's a really good effect, I feel. Just like I've said before in previous videos, if you play one card and it lets you put another card out for free, just makes it a good card. And then on top of that, it being a 2k counter, so good card in hand, and then also a really strong effect depending on if you see your Jailer Beasts or not. She does get a parallel. Then we have Saldeth. He's a 1/2 1k counter, wisdom attribute, Impel Down. Your Blugori gains blocker. So Blugori is a card that we'll get to in a second, I believe, but it's just a low cost. I believe the Blugori of power is 3,000, and I think it's a 2/3 or it might be a 3/4. But this, it's a way, if you're not seeing blockers, you can turn your Blugoris into blockers, or you could play your Blugoris, and then if you see him, turn him into blockers late game. It has the ability to turn cards into blockers. So then we have Shiki, the first vanilla. He is a 2/3 slasher attribute, 2k counter, and his trigger effect, not his regular effect, his trigger effect is Dawn -1. You play this card. So this works. I mean, I was gonna say it works in a Magellan deck, but Magellan is only during your turn. So if you use the trigger, it's not during your turn. So Dawn -1, you're not. If he was a higher power, maybe this Dawn -1. If you made him a 3/5, maybe this Dawn -1 playing the card might be worth it. But since with him being a 2k counter, just use him for, if you have him in your deck, just use him for +2, unless you need a body on the board, but use him for a +2. Then we have Shiryu. He's a 4/5 1k counter slasher, Impel Down. As effect on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. I almost said 4 because it reminded me of King, but no. So Dawn -1, KO of 1 or less. If you have a Z deck, maybe he can go in there. It's a cheaper way to get rid of a card. You can make a blocker down to 1 or 0 with effects. He can also KO searchers, and then he's a 5,000 power character on the field. So all in all, not a bad card. And he does have a counter, so kind of a slightly better king if he's in a purple-black deck. Then we have Solitaire. She's a 3/5 slasher, 1k counter in hand, Animal Kingdom, and Smile. She's just another, her having the smile on here, she's just another use for the Orochimaru to search for the Smile Devil Fruit, which then can search for a Smile type character card and play it, I believe. So just another Smile card. Then we have Daifugo. He's a 3/5 range type, Animal Kingdom, and Smile, so it can be searched off of the Smile Devil Fruit card from the first set. His effect on play, Dawn -2, play up to one Smile type character card other than Daifugo with a cost of 3 or less from hand. So he can play Solitaire that we just looked at, and then almost any Smile from the first set, which there's only a couple. There's one that lets you look at your character or your opponent's hand. That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But, he lets you get potentially another 3/5 out on the board. Then we have Douglas Bullet. He's a 5/6 1k counter, special attribute film, and the Pirate's Vest. His effect on play, Dawn -1, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So you could combine this with, either a Magellan or a Z, because if you make a 10 down to a 4, you can rest them and then swing at them, or just a 6 cost blocker, or the 7 cost blocker, the Eustace Kid from the starter deck, or the Luffy from the green set of, or from the green, from this set, the green one, break them down and then rest them, and then, you know, there goes out a blocker. Or the 6 cost law from the first set, rest them. So maybe works a little better in, maybe works in, it works in either or. But Dom -1 and then rest. So, you know, any card that rests. And then he's also a 6k body on the field. So, pretty good card. Then we have Donbon. He's 2/4, 1k counter, strike, Animal Kingdom Smile. So he can be played off a Daifugo. Just a vanilla. Another Smile guy to add to the Smile deck that I know everyone's slowly working on making. Then we have Domino. A 2/2 Wisdom Attribute, 1k counter, Impel Down blocker. Just another 2/2 blocker. There is a Impel Down Searcher we'll get to in a second, so if you really just want to have a pure Impel Down deck, then she goes in there. Then we have Brynid World, I believe. He's an 8/8 strike attribute, World Pirates. His effect, this is a really busted effect. It's just stupid. It's activate main, Dawn -8, and then this character gains 792,000 power during this turn. So he becomes an 800,000 power character. So if you just really want to make sure that the last hit goes for game, then this is the guy you go, you swing with him. If you're able to if he has no blockers in hand and he has no life, you put this guy down, you try to go for life, or try to take out all of his life, and then when he has no life left, then you just take out his blockers, Dawn -8, and then just swing with 800,000. Then we have Hannibal. He's a 1/2, 1k counter, slasher, Impel Down. His effect on play, look at top 5, reveal up to 1 purple Impel Down card other than him, and add it to your hand, then place the rest of the bottom in any deck. Just a regular old searcher, but for Impel Down. Then here are the Blue Gories that we talked about earlier. It's a 1/3, so I was a little bit off. 1/3, 1k counter, slasher, animal, and Impel Down. So these guys, it's a 3,000 blocker. So, if you really want, you can only have 4 of these in the deck. There's nowhere that it states you can have more than 4. So if you just need a couple extra blockers, but then also an option to potentially swing at life, maybe put them in there. And then them being 1k, not a dead card in hand. Then we have our first SR. It is Magellan. He's a 5/6 special attribute, Impel Down. His effect on play, Dawn -1. Your opponent returns 1 Dawn card from the field to their Dawn deck. So it's basically just an even reducing Dawn on the turn that he's played. It's set for, and you gain plus 1,000 if you play as Magellan, which, if you're going to have this guy in there, maybe be playing with Magellan as a leader. He could also work in a regular, other purple decks, but Magellan's a little better. Then he has an effect during your opponent's turn. When this character is KO'd, your opponent returns 2 Dawn cards from their field to their Dawn deck. So a pretty strong card with, it is a big body, so your opponent's going to be looking to KO this. It is within jet pistol range, so with it being 6,000, it only needs 1 more on it to be 7,000, and 7,000 is that magic number. But your opponent is going to have to deal with losing 2 Dawn on if they do KO him during their turn. It's good if your opponent's not used to having their Dawn reduced. If they're playing like a green or a red, and they're that has the option just to stall them out for that turn, because they won't gain anything, or depends where they're at. But potential of losing 3. He does get a parallel, which just looks a lot better. This one's kind of, it's a original illustration. The other one is just an anime screenshot. Then we have Mino Koala. He's a 4/5, 1k counter, striker attribute, Impel Down, and Jailer Beasts. So able to be played off of Sadie. His first effect is that he's a blocker, and then his next effect is on KO. If your leader has the Impel Down type, add up to 1 of your Dawn cards from your Dawn deck and rest it. So just another way of Dawn Ramp has the ability to be played from turn 2 if you go first. Then this Mino Koala does get a parallel, which is just zoomed in. I believe this is the box topper. Then we have Minotaur, a 4/5/1K counter striker, Impel Down, and Jailer Beast, so another option for Sadie. This one has double attack, and then also has the effect on KO. If your leader has Impel Down type, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So, just like Mino Koala, it's basically for Magellan, and it's a Dawn Ramp option. Him also having a double attack does make him more of a target, because with him being the 5,000, most leaders except for Whitebeard, basically all leaders except for Whitebeard are at that 5,000, so then it doesn't take much to start building them up, and you can hit them with a 8 or 9,000 double attack. So they're going to be looking to KO him, and then when they do, you just get a Dawn back. Then we have our first pure vanilla here. It's a Sphinx, 4/6/1K counter, Impel Down, and animal type. So searchable off of Hannibal if that's what you want to do, but just a vanilla, pure vanilla. Then we have our first event card. It is a 2-cost event, 2-cost counter event. It is Dawn -1, give up a total of 2 of your opponent's leaders or characters minus 3,000 power during this turn. So it says give up to a total of 2 of your opponent's leaders or characters minus 3,000. So you can give, I believe the way this is worded is one guy can get -2 and another guy can get -3. So you can kind of mix and match, I believe. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait till the until this set comes out, and then the English Q&A questions or whatever about the certain cards come up. But I believe that's how it is if you want to give one guy -2 and another guy -1, you have that option. Then its trigger is if your opponent has 6 or more Dawn cards on their field, your opponent returns 1 Dawn card from their field to their Dawn deck. So not a bad trigger effect, because they lose 1 Dawn, and that could mess up what they were planning on doing, potentially. So, yeah, not a bad counter. You can also, if you think about it, this is the first card where a counter effect is where it's minusing power. So if someone swings at you with 5 or 6, you can use this Dawn -1, give that card hitting you with 6 -2 to make them 4, and then give one of another person on the field -1, and then that way they either have to attach another Dawn to the person, or just not swing with them. So I believe the main effect is better than the trigger effect, but obviously it's situational depending on how you're playing in the moment. Then the next event we have is Hydra. It's a 1-cost main effect, Dawn -1, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power during this turn. So it's just it's like an Otama, but -3. You do lose 1 Dawn, which also does work with Magellan, because if you lose 1 Dawn, then he becomes 6, and you can just return the one that you rested to play the event, and then give someone -3. So, oh no, not bad. Then his trigger is if your opponent has 6 or more Dawn cards on the field, your opponent returns 1 Dawn card on their field to their Dawn deck. So, again, it's the same as the last one, where I think the main effect is a little bit better than the trigger effect, but it is situational. It's up to you. Then the next one we have is a 3-cost event, Venom Road. Its effect is activate main, up to 1 Dawn, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. You can play this turn 2 if you go first, just to get that extra Dawn if you're not seeing what you want to see. And then his trigger effect is the same. If your opponent has 6 or more Dawn cards on their field, they return 1 Dawn on their field to their Dawn deck. So, again, in this case, I probably wouldn't use it as his trigger effect, because I might be, if I pull this like life 3 with Magellan and I'm not seeing my Dawn, or I'm not seeing enough Dawn ramp and I need 1 more Dawn, main effect's better in this case. Then we have the stage card. It's a 1-cost stage. Activate main. You may trash 1 card from your hand and rest the stage. Look at the top 3 cards in your deck, reveal 1 Impel Down type card added to hand, then place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. So it's a searcher. You are trashing a card, which if you wind up drawing 2 stage cards, then you can trash a stage card. And then later down the road, I could see some cards that are like, if this card was trashed from a card effect, play this card. So might be the case, might be an option. So, but it's not bad. You look at the top 3, and then you get a card in hand, a specific card. Then we have our first secret rare of the set. It is Uta, an 8/8 special attribute film type. On play, Don -2, your leader and all of your characters gains plus 1000 power until the start of your next turn. So everyone on your field gets +1, and they stay like that until you come back to your turn. So a really good card for purple. For purple in general, it's a really good card because the turn that she's played, your Magellan becomes a 7 because he gains the +1 from the Dawn minus, and then he gains the +1 from her effect. And then if you already have a good board built, where you have like a couple like 6s or 5s, you got a pretty beefy board. Then you just got a free Dawn attached to everyone. So really good card. And then this is the parallel version. But that is all of the purple cards that are set to come out in OP02. Let me know down below which card your chase is from the set. I think mine is going to be this Magellan. In the next video, we will be going over the black cards, which is the new color set. And it's like a whole new way to play the game. So be looking forward to that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.